Welcome back, guys, to another episode of It's a Sign. So Trey asked me to sort of take the lead in the sense of what would I like to do a episode about, and I thought that we'd sort of take it back to how we started out this podcast with more free-flowing style videos where we talk about spiritual subjects that we're interested in or we have experience in, and we haven't yet done a tarot episode.
I'm surprised it's taken us this long since you're the tarot queen in this household.
Yeah, I know, and I don't think it will be our last tarot episode either, sorry babe, but like I definitely love talking about the tarot. It's my favourite subject to talk about. I could talk about it all day long. But today I thought I wanted to just do something a bit fun, something less like what you expect, like the 101 of tarot, right?
Yeah.
And sort of grab a few different decks, including the main Rider-Waite-Smith deck and my main deck. And the system that most people learn on, that is. But I wanted to take my partner Trey here to look at the images and let's just discuss the art together. What sort of messages, what ideas do we get from just the art alone, like not thinking about the keywords, the classic meanings.
Yeah.
And then looking at the main Rider-Waite-Smith decks art, and then after we've gone for a few cards that I've selected for us to look at, then we'll just free pick a few from these other random decks that I pulled out for us. But first, I know Trey wanted to do his little bit of a deep dive on the history of tarot, which I was happy about. I'm not going to argue with that, so that would be interesting to hear. I think we'll start off with that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm excited to do it because I have like dabbled in tarot before. You know, I had a couple decks. I think anyone who gets into spirituality and kind of the art of divination gets at least one tarot deck, or you get one gifted one. And yeah, so I looked at it a bit. I looked up some of the meanings, but most of the time I just read out of the book, or was using it when I was like really in a pinch, and I was like, God, I don't know what decision to make. Can these cards help me somehow? So, and also if you hear any crackling, it's our fireplace. We really, not this one.
I wish it was this one.
Yeah, we're planning on getting a stove.
Hopefully.
But yeah, we wanted to do it in front of that fireplace, but that fireplace is in our bathroom, and we just could not get a shot without our toilet being in there.
Yeah, so we thought we would freeze. I got a nice Christmassy blanket. We finished Halloween straight in with the Christmas blankets now.
Yeah. Speaking of Halloween, our
Halloween decorations,
our gourds are starting to rot, and so we gotta get them out of there.
It really is as well. I didn't notice. It's terrible.
Yeah.
We should get some Christmassy, winter vibes.
That'll be fun. We've definitely started feeling the shift to winter. Like 5 days ago, we were out. I was shirtless in the sun, and it was warm. And now all of a sudden it's cold, and we've got the fire going all day, so
I'm literally editing a video where I'm in short denim shorts and a crop top that I recorded last week, and like today I'm wearing double trousers, double jumpers. Like, it's so cold now. It's just crazy.
Crazy. Also, the back of this card is the skull moth, and that's one of these underlining themes in one of these books that I'm writing for a client.
All right, and we found one recently.
We found one in the house. It was so huge.
It was huge. It was like this big.
She freaked me out. She's like, "It's a wasp."
No, it's a hornet.
It's a hornet, and I'm like, "Holy crap! That's the biggest hornet I've ever seen!" Because it was like this big, the moth. So I was like, "Oh my!" with its wings spread.
Yeah, but it wasn't until it landed on the wall that we could see that it had this skull on its back, and I just never knew they were that big, like monster moths are massive.
Yeah. And I never knew that these skull moths existed.
Yeah.
Until then. It's really cool. It actually just has such a bearing resemblance of a skull on it. Makes you think perhaps the symbols that we hold today are not just conjured out of the human mind, but a part of some sort of archetype, because it's almost like a warning that moth has, this skull on its back, like warning, do not eat me or something. I wonder if that's what it, and I wonder if under different light, like remember we watched that documentary with like how animals see in like ultraviolet and different colors and stuff. I wonder if it has it glows and stuff.
Probably looks like it's massive. I don't know what's going to take that on what bird.
All right.
Yeah,
well, so shall we just dive in a little bit to the history of the tarot? And I've just gathered this from some various websites, which I'll be linking in the description. But basically, there's a lot about tarot that is unknown. A lot of it is kind of lost to history, and a bunch of different people are trying to piece together some threads of how it's coming together. So I have a couple different hypothesis on the origins. People aren't sure from the beginning if it was supposed to be a divinatory medium straight away, or a game, a means of self-knowledge, a way to kind of understand archetypes, or...
I heard it was like a game for like the rich people. Originally,
which deck?
Like a card game. The Italian deck.
Oh yeah. We'll be getting into that one a little bit.
I know, which I thought was the first one, but I believe I'm probably wrong
it is hypothesized to be one of the first.
Yeah.
Before the Marseille deck. One of the first. So not much is known. It is just that one fine day where no one knows when they appeared. It was as if they surfaced, as if by magic.
They didn't have a creator, an artist?
No, in the beginning, no. Starting in 1200, the tarot cards began to spread in the courts in the hands of gypsies, the Saracens, the Templars, and then the people. They appeared, but it is not known in what precise form, in the sense that in some documents there is mention of the existence of tarot cards, but it's not known which tarot is being talked about and what the figures were. From around 1200 to 1500, we only know from documents in circulation that the tarot cards circulated through Europe. Since 1500, though, we have a historical evidence of the existence of some tarot decks: the Visconti tarot, the Solabusca, the Visconti Sforza, the Mitelli tarot, and the Mantegna tarot. It all sounds like kind of Italian names, whose origin and purpose are not unknown. The most widespread tarot cards are that of Marseille, and we know that, but little or nothing is known about this. It is only known that the decks spread to Marseille, but it is not known where they came from or who created them. For some, it comes from the tarote, the back of the first cross-striped cards, or by taroteers, who were the makers of the first cards, and others think it's created by the god Thoth. I think that's Aleister Crowley. In short, nothing sure is known about the tarot, though we can find some traces of evidence. So here's a picture of one of the first, earliest tarot cards. And here's an artistic description of an origin from ancient Egypt. So, it was well known that the ancient Egyptians used sorcery and divination. A lot of what we know in Western mysticism, Hermetic arts, come from Egypt, the sources from Egypt. And there was a legend that says the ancient Egyptians used sorcery to battle one another in something known as the Shadow Games. Once the Shadow Game began, both sorcerers were transported to another dimension where the punishment for cheating was death. The two used their magic to summon fierce creatures whose souls were engraved in large sandstone rectangular slabs, resembling playing cards. While the winner would leave safely, the loser of the battle faced an immense penalty. Eventually, the Shadow Games sparked a war that threatened to destroy the world, so the Pharaoh of Egypt sealed its magic away. Several thousand years later, a man named Pegasus fell in love with a girl named Cecilia. The two got married, but Cecilia was overtaken by illness and passed away shortly after. Pegasus searched for a way to see his beloved wife again, which led him to Egypt. There he discovered a legend of magical object known as the Millennium Items and learned about the Shadow Games. Pegasus then found a way to fuse the ancient sorcery into playing cards and eventually created the first tarot deck. And at the core, the original game was the mirror of the Shadow Games of ancient Egypt, which were brought into the modern world. And this original game was known as Duel Monsters, or Yu-Gi-Oh!
That's like parody, I like you. You're joking with me.
The game was named Yu-Gi-Oh!
You said the game monsters.
Duel Monsters,
Duel
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Monsters.
No, that was a joke.
Yeah, it was a joke, right?
Yeah.
See, I know you too well.
Damn it. So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a children's anime. Good story though, right?
Oh, did you make up the whole thing?
No, it's a children's anime that I used to watch as a kid.
Oh, right, and it is about tarot cards.
It's about this card game, and it had all these
Where did you stray from truth to
Okay, I only strayed from
Egyptian stuff?
Only the Egyptian stuff is false. But it was this really cool show with these playing cards, and when I thought of the tarot, it was like, I just instantly reminded me of Yu-Gi-Oh! Remember that guy on Netflix? He said, "What's that with the big hair?"
That's the guy from last night. I was like, "What's that show? Maybe we should watch it." I was drawn to it because of that hairdo.
Yeah, and it has all these cool things with these hidden millennium items that contain the souls, and there's all these shadow games and battling with these cards.
Duel monsters.
Duel monsters.
As soon as she said duel monsters.
Yeah. So, okay. Those of you who know Yu-Gi-Oh! Then you knew what I was doing from the beginning, but I just wanted to trick her.
Yeah. Thanks, Lover.
You're welcome. I wish I had my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards with me. They're really cool.
Do you have some?
I have some at home.
Wow.
I don't know if I still have them, but yeah.
You could definitely do divination with them. You can do divination with anything.
You could.
Yeah.
Definitely could. If you, there's
and that's the thing.
There's dragons in there. There's this really powerful card called the Blue Eyes White Dragon. There's dark magicians, trap cards, all sorts of things. It's really fun. But,
yeah, that's like the thing with a lot of people, like from other religions and stuff. They might fear tarot. But it's like there's no power in the cards, even the images like that are old and ancient and have all this symbolism. It's nothing to do with that. It's when you're actually reading the cards, you, the reader, are the ones who's bringing the magic to the reading, to the cards. You're the one that's making them alive. A deck on its own, some cultures and people fear them.
Yeah.
Like you can't even have a tarot deck in the house.
Yeah.
But I don't see it like that personally. I even though I think when you have tools around, it awakens it brightens your light, but just having psychic abilities, like, it can strengthen your psychic abilities, right? It's another tool to strengthen your psychic abilities. Anything you do to strengthen your psychic abilities brightens your light to spirit. So you're gonna like attract more activity in the spirit realm. You're gonna be a brighter beacon light because
in the shadow dimension.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but I don't think it's the deck. It's
no, especially this Rider-Waite deck. It has like allegorical images that represent certain archetypes. And it's not the cards themselves, but the way the wielder draws them.
Yeah, but it's like, I think it's great to learn the system. It's great to understand like the symbolism and everything. And, you know, these old decks, like I love the Rider-Waite. It's my favorite deck to work with. And the reason that I really like it so much is I feel like I've had past lives where I've read this deck. So it's like this, I have such a strong, very natural connection with it, you know? And that would make sense because, you know, it's a very old deck. But
I think it's a really beautiful deck, even in terms of just like storytelling.
Yeah, I literally love it so much. Yeah. Like, I think the storytelling in the Rider-Waite is amazing. Like,
yeah, and it has like a progression, like a soul progression and everything like that. One thing I did want to mention about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they did this thing they had this thing in the show called the Heart of the Cards. And you had one who was really attuned to the heart of the cards could listen to the heart of the cards. And Yugi, who's like the main character, he would tune into the heart of the cards. And when he'd be losing in a game, he'd tune into the heart of the cards and he'd get a flash and he would see the card before.
This duel, this tournament, my grandpa. But as hopeless as it seems, I still have to believe.
Good luck, Yugi.
You can do it, pal. Believe. Kick butt, Yug! It comes to this, so draw your card and face your fate. Heart of the cards, guide me. Let's finish this, Kaiba!
Before he picked it. And he would know what it was without even looking and then place it down. And then that would turn the tides of battle. But I think they really focused on this like esoteric, almost spiritual connection to the cards. And I think that's what happens here. When your heart is tuned, when you tune your heart to the cards, then you are working with the laws of fate and you're drawing that fate. And
that's why you pull the cards that you will receive the message you need to hear from it. Even like there's those times, and so many people say it, even though you really shouldn't do it, but you like shuffle a deck, you pull a card or a card falls out that you don't really want, because, you know, that's why it's always good to, even however like long you've been reading, it's always good to, when you can, get readings from other people, because it is, you know, it's not the easiest to read for yourself. Like, we can, but it's always great to get an outside perspective. But,
especially when the card comes out and you're like, I don't really want to face
so
that.
Then what I'm saying is that people will put it back in and sharpen it again, and then what comes out next?
The same card.
Yeah.
All right, so
have you got any more history?
I actually do have some real history.
Yeah, let's go through that.
Okay, cool. So history of the tarot cards as we know it. And there are going to be some various interpretations here. This is kind of a more scholarly interpretation. So contrary to what the uninitiated might think, the meaning of divination cards change over time, shaped by each era's culture and the needs of individual users. Makes sense. This is partly why these decks can be so puzzling to outsiders, as most of them reference allegories or events familiar to people many centuries ago. Caitlin Matthews, who teaches courses on cartomancy or divination with cards, says that before the 18th century, the imagery on these cards was accessible to a much broader population. But in contrast to these historic decks, Matthews finds most modern decks harder to engage with. And this is a quote from him, and he's from them. I'm not sure what gender they are. You either have these very shallow ones or these rampantly esoteric ones with so many signs and symbols on them you can barely make them out. I bought my first tarot pack, which was the Tarot de Marseille, published by Grimald in 1969, and I recently came right back around to it after not using it for a while. So I agree with him here. I've seen some beautiful tarot decks, like, not to throw any beef out, any shade, but like, I love the Starseed like the Starseed tarot deck.
That's an oracle deck.
No, not the Starseed. It's by the same person, but they made a tarot deck.
I think they only made oracle decks.
No, they made a tarot deck. I don't
Alright,
remember.
okay.
I forgot what it was called, but the images I found beautiful, but I just couldn't connect with it. The symbolism, it just wasn't like, I couldn't attune to it. I couldn't make a story out of it. I couldn't interpret it, you know.
It was Rebecca Campbell's deck, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Whoever did. She's Canadian.
She did the Starseed, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, but I never liked any of her decks personally. They didn't resonate with me.
They're very like pastely ethereal colors.
I had one. I traded it.
Yeah, I gave mine away too. And again, I agree with him. Like, the only one that really hit me was I've never had a Marseille deck, but it was the Rider-Waite.
Yeah.
And that was the one I kept coming back to, because I felt like the images had a story to tell, and I'm a storyteller, and I could see a story in the pictures. Yeah, so I agree. And then there's other ones where it's like you can't grasp the full meaning of the cards unless you know all the symbols that are interlaced within it.
You have the keywords memorized.
Yeah. So is it the Thoth deck that has like loads of symbols? Like
the Thoth deck I have never worked with, and people get very like touchy-feely about it and protective of it, so I don't really like to ever speak on it. Because one, I never owned it, I can't have a true opinion of it, but when I've seen other people talk about it and do walkthroughs of it, it's exactly like that to me. It has a whole almost different system, you know, like a lot of the names of the cards have changed and like have completely different meanings, especially because I use a lot numerology and stuff. It would be, I don't know. I never felt pulled to it, but then I don't like to comment on it because it's such a beloved system by certain people.
Well, I've read some of Aleister Crowley's work, and it is not. There's a kind of, for me personally, I believe there's kind of a pompousness to it, where it's like, you know, he isn't just trying to, you know, reveal or teach. It's like he's writing this almost essay with all these hidden meanings and, you know, words that you have to know the context of and all these things. And
I literally couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I've never been a huge fan of him.
No, I think he was through the Order of the Golden Dawn, which is a Christian, I think,
I don't
esoteric
know
tradition.
About that side of it, but
there's a Christian.
Yeah, like I agree with you, and I always got that kind of pompous vibe as well. But it's almost like, you know, you don't like to say that too much because he is very beloved in the witchcraft community.
Yeah, and people can, you know, have their own opinions.
Yeah.
It's just mine. So let's get back to the history a bit. So presumably originating in the 17th century, the Tarot de Marseille is one of the most common types of tarot decks ever produced. Marseille decks were generally printed with wood blocks and later colored by hand using basic stencils. However, using cards for playful divination probably goes back even further to the 14th century, likely originating with the Mamluk game, cards brought to Western Europe from Turkey. And here's a picture of those cards. And they're quite interesting. There's
slim and long.
Slim and long. A lot of, almost looks like church glass stained windows in a way. But,
and they still got, like, you can see the wands, the swords. I think that is, you know, you've got the cups there.
Yeah.
It reminds me more of the Marseille. Well,
yeah, Marseille.
Yeah. I've heard people pronounce it both ways, so.
Yeah, I guess it's, I think, yeah, I don't know. I think Marseille is the way the French say it.
Yeah.
Marseille, I don't know.
Which, yeah, you never actually said that was a French deck, so I guess we're saying the original divination tarot did come from France.
Perhaps.
Because you had never mentioned it.
It came, we'll go to Italy next, but like we said before, the Marseille came to France, but didn't originate there. So it probably had a different name. And it was popularized later by someone who began to publish it as the Marseille deck.
Yeah, and it's the tarot, I don't know if you've mentioned it or anything, but the tarot here in France, because we live in France, is like a really popular card game, probably as popular as normal playing cards. And in all the supermarkets, in the little game section, you can always buy a deck of a tarot deck. Which we bought one, but it's completely different to a divination deck, and it's not the same as the Marseille. It's like a game, and they have like a league, like a competitive tarot playing like league here.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like a big thing over here. Just like you have the chess competitions, they have tarot competitions here, but it's like not divination, it's like a whole other game. And I looked it up, and I asked Trey actually for my channel if you would try and play the French tarot game with me, because we got the deck. And you said you would, so now we've got it on camera and we should do it.
Okay, cool. We also have another tarot game which is really fun.
The Loki tarot game, which is like a modern tarot game. Where is that from? The UK, America?
I don't know.
But that's its own little system in itself. Whereas the French is like a big thing in France. It's this system
like
that you all know, just like the chess. But I would like to learn to play it. I guess it would be interesting. The cards are really interesting. Yeah.
So by the 1500s, the Italian aristocracy was enjoying a game known as tarocchi appropriati, in which players were dealt random cards and used thematic associations with these cards to write poetic verses about one another. Interesting.
Yeah,
that's kind of fun.
Rap battles. But
tarot rap battles or diss tracks.
Yeah.
This man, I can imagine these swords cards coming up. So even the earliest known tarot decks weren't, and this is through trackable history that we know of, weren't designed with mysticism in mind. They were actually meant for playing a game similar to modern day bridge. And wealthy families in Italy commissioned expensive artist-made decks known as carte dei trionfi, or cards of triumph. These cards were marked with suits of cups, swords, coins, and polo sticks, which was eventually changed to staves or wands. And courts consisting of a king and two male underlings, tarot cards later incorporated queens, trumps, and the fool to this system for a complete deck that usually totaled 78 cards. Today, the suits are commonly called the minor arcana, while trump cards are known as the major arcana. So there was a graphic designer and artist named Bill Wolfe, whose interest in tarot illustrations date to his art school days at Cooper Union in New York. And he has his own theories about the tarot's beginning. Wolfe, who doesn't use cards for divination, believes that originally the meaning of imagery was parallel to the mechanics of the play of the game. The random draw of the cards created a new, unique narrative each and every time the game was played, and the decisions player made influenced the unfolding of that narrative. It's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure style card game.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so the imagery was designed to reflect important aspects of the real world that the players lived in, and the prominent Christian symbolism in the cards was a reflection of the world that they lived in. He adds that as divinatory usage became more popular, illustrations evolved to reflect a specific designer's intention. The subjects took on more and more esoteric meanings, but they generally maintained the traditional tarot structure of 4 suits of pip cards and corresponding court cards and the additional trump cards with a fool. And here we can see some of the earlier decks that potentially the Italians were playing with.
It looks really similar to the Marseille, because I have a Marseille deck, you know, the French deck.
Yeah. And so
which is actually what people call a pip deck, like now, you know. Did you read that?
No.
So, you know, you had the picture, the minor arcana in the Rider-Waite have like pictures.
Yeah.
And then in pip decks it will be like sort of like a stained glassy design, or just like kind of like a playing cards where it's like 3 you know, 3 hearts, 3 clubs.
So it used to be more like this smaller image, and then now it's kind of
well, it would just literally be no image, but like the 3 cups, the 3 pentacles, the 3 wands, or whatever. Don't know why I'm saying 3 and holding up at 5.
You want to get that 3 through. So this is the Rider-Waite deck, which was designed specifically for divination, and it included a book written by Waite in which he explained much of the esoteric meaning behind the imagery. People say its revolutionary point of genius is that the pip cards are illustrated, which is what we were just talking about, meaning that Coleman Smith incorporated the number of suit signs into little scenes, and when taken together they tell a story in pictures. This strong narrative element gives readers something to latch onto, and that it is relatively intuitive to look at a combination of cards and derive your own story from them.
Yeah, that's like what I love about the Rider-Waite so much, is because it has the illustrated pip.
Yeah.
And the minor cards are my favorite. Like, most people like just love the major arcana the most, but I actually love the minor arcana more. They're more subtle, down to earth energies, or realistic energies, like real world, real life energies for me.
Yeah. Cool. So now this is going on from a different perspective now. This is shifting a bit of narrative. So the first fascinating clue as to the name of the author of the tarot was found in a letter written by Jacopo Antonio Marcello, a Venetian military commander. The letter dated to 1449 and came with a gift of tarot cards for Queen Isabella Vagno, the consort of King René, Duke of Lorraine. Marcello stated that the deck was painted by Michelino de Bezzoso and created by Duke Filippo Maria Visconti of Milan. Unfortunately, the deck of cards did not survive, but Duke Visconti's secret, Marziano da Toronto, wrote a letter and an explanation treatise in Latin that did. Marcello stated that his letter, that he had initially obtained a pack of tarot cards for the Queen, was disappointed with their poor quality. He'd heard of Michelino de Bezzoso's deck for Duke Visconti and vowed to find it. He also mentioned Marziano's treatise and indicated that the secretary was an astrological specialist. According to this theory, tarot was most likely devised in the court of Milan, either for or by Duke Filippo Maria Visconti, as claimed by Jacopo God, there's so many names. I'm just going to say their first name. In his letter to Queen Isabella. The Italian nobility was enjoying, and yes, this is what we talked about, they're enjoying this game called the Tarocchi Appropriati in the 1500s, which came later, and the foretelling cards were known as sortes, which translate as destinies or lots. So you can see already how the potential for the divination of these cards is coming about. Though tarot flourished throughout Italy, it was through Milan that the game spread to the rest of Europe. As the city fell to the forces of France and Switzerland in the 16th century, tarot thereafter became established in those nations, and the game gained popularity in Germany and the rest of Europe by the 18th century. And then from around 1700, the Tarot Marseille became the standard pack created by French and Swiss card producers. So tarot was initially and this is now another point of view.
Okay.
And we'll come to the end after this. So tarot was initially connected with esotericism, ceremonial magic, and divination during the French occult revival. Tarot was so far away from its original culture setting in late 18th century France that deciphering its symbolism became difficult. Instead, it was reprinted in accordance with a new set of intellectual criteria. In particular, France was affected by events that included a fascination with other cultures. Egyptomania gripped the country, fueled by Napoleon's conquest of that exotic continent. In this context, tarot was turned from a Renaissance game to an occult practice device, because ancient Egypt was known for its divination and its mystical practices, its secret
its deities, its gods and goddesses.
And they did have methods of divination, they just did not use cards. And there's methods of divination throughout the world where people scatter bones on the ground and interpret the meanings of that. They have these
trinkets,
rocks, pebbles,
crystals,
runes.
You can scry into water, like
a
bowl of water, into mirrors.
Yeah, and basically, I think what we're trying to say here is that potentially anything could be used as a method of
That's
divination.
What I was saying right at the beginning about, like, there's no reason to think that the cards alone have power. We bring power to them, and it's not saying that they're not amazing at, like, triggering our intuition and giving us really powerful, insightful messages.
Yeah.
But why do you keep looking up there? I thought there was like something on my head.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that it's not that they're not amazing at doing that, but it is the reader who's receiving the message.
Yeah, all these divination methods are tools. Exactly. They're used to help access the other side and the psychic potential, and they're aids for us. Though one could say a good tarot reader who's very connected to their cards and to the realm of spirit have a better chance, because they're working subtle energies to manipulate and draw the card that's needed. Whereas someone who's not connected at all could just draw a card and there's no connection there. There's no meaning.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that happens when you draw a card of purpose, it gives you a resonance feeling in terms of intuition. It's like, oof, it kind of gives you an intuitive hit. Like, yeah, that's the right card.
Yeah, and that's why it is important to remember, like, when you're learning the tarot and using the tarot, like, it's called a tarot practice for a reason, because it takes practice to gain that connection. And it's not about just studying the meanings of the cards. Obviously that's great to do, and can bring new meanings to the cards and stuff for you, but really it's like just continuously working with the cards, practicing with the cards, and then you strengthen that connection. It's the same as if you was reading oracle, reading bones, like
I think it's also like a relationship with anyone, with a human, an animal, a place.
Like even a relationship, it takes practice to like continue working on that connection,
and it eventually becomes an extension of your intuitive abilities. That's practically what it is. It's like your intuitive abilities. There's no separation between object and mind. Object and mind in the cosmos are one thing. There's no separation when we go deep down on a microscopic level between the cells in my body, the cells in the air, cells in my body, the cells on this table. And I know through astral projection practices, through, deep meditations, that you can become your surroundings. You can become so much more than your body. And your spirit, your mind is a cosmic thing. It's an infinite thing. It is not localized to our body like we often so get tricked into thinking. We get so trapped in the idea that we are these mortal beings and that the body and the physical world is all there is. But what really happens, I think, when a psychic connects with a card is that their mind and the cards are at one. The heart of the cards is active, and their mind is now speaking through these cards. It's an extension of their body, an extension of the physical act of their mind.
And it's like, what do you feel drawn to? What do you feel connected to? What do you hold relationship with? And it's like, okay, well, a lot of people who might be drawn to tarot is people who are interested in art, interested in the creative realm and stuff, because you're using art to depict these messages to you. Whereas maybe if you're scrying into water, this is maybe more of that realm of the imagination, and obviously astral projection and things like that is more bringing stuff, from a different realm out into your vision. I feel like scrying is a similar kind of skill. And like, we was in that group the other day, and someone was saying, like, you don't need, like, you shouldn't even bother with tarot cards. You should just like pull from the ether. And I just don't, like, I think we both didn't really resonate with that, because I think tools are valuable because of the connection that we hold with them. It's like, like, you can get downloads. I get downloads. It doesn't change the fact that I love working with the tarot. I feel like you get really clear messages.
It's no less empowering.
No, I feel like you can get really super clear messages with the tarot. You don't have like this worry of like waiting on a download to come through, or I don't know, like, but I think it's more of like, it's fun to play with. So it's like playing with your environment and bringing your spirituality into that, because these cards, all different types, they're so beautiful and colourful, and there's something tactile, like using it with your hands as well. And I don't think that it's a crutch, like some people believe. Like, it's like a stepping stone.
I think it's a great bridge between, especially if you're doing readings for other people, it's a great bridge to have that between you two, Creating
a visual for them as well, if they're looking at the cards.
Yeah, exactly. So, just quickly getting back to this before we finish up the history. The first indication of divination in France was in a book named Attilia, and he published a guidebook to using the cards along with his own deck. He gave each card a purpose, including beliefs about astronomy and the four elements. He claimed to have been significantly influenced by the Book of Thoth, an Egyptian work allegedly authored by Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, which is also known as the Emerald Tablets. Another pivotal figure in the history of tarot was Eliphas Levi from France. Nobody could claim that his theories were unique, but his integration of Kabbalah, alchemy, hermeticism, astrology, magnetism, and black magic into a unified system was. So tarot was a key component of his huge synthesis, with Attilia most likely being the motivation for its inclusion. So here we have a bunch of different people really starting to dive into, wow, these can be really used on an esoteric level. It's, they can really be helpful. So the pre-occult period of the tarot is interesting because there is already a difference between symbolic and plain cards, but there are several different sets of symbolic cards that have no serial numbers or names, let alone astrological or Kabbalistic matches. Symbolic cards illustrate the icons of the Italian Renaissance, allegorical characters, and social symbols. And one thing I want to note about this is that one quote that I have in my head, I don't know who the hell said it, but it was the world, or it was like the characters don't change, it's just how they look or something like that. You know, like the characters throughout time don't change, it's just the people who play them or something like that.
The actors.
Yeah, so throughout history, throughout time, we have global symbols and global archetypes that will continuously reappear. And just the thought of a leader, that is a notion, that is an archetype, and that can be portrayed as something. So in this, in Italy, if there were allegorical characters and social symbols, these people would be representing a certain archetype within that social structure. So it meant something to them. Like, let's say, I'm gonna make something up here, like Queen Lavinia. Let's say she was very kind and faring and just, and she did a lot of social justice and helped people. And she was very honorable in the way she acted in her royal status. She would be resembled on the card, but also everyone would associate her with the archetype that she's putting forth, So, yeah, the period of occult understanding began with the idea of Mason Antoine Cure de Jabion on the Egyptian. Sorry.
Just say it in your own accent.
I just had to.
You can't
I just
not,
got
can
into
you?
a character there. Sorry. On the Egyptian origins of the tarot and the connection of any two symbolic cards with the ancient Hebrew alphabet. The beginning of the 20th century is known for the work of the Masonic Order of the Golden Dawn in England. Samuel Mazars and the Arthur Waite contributed to the understanding of the tarot as a system. The majority of contemporary tarot reading methods are based on the Golden Dawn system of correspondences, which was further refined by Waite and our main man, Crowley. Crowley man. The symbology on these decks mirrored the Golden Dawn's diverse doctrines, which encompassed Rosicrucianism, heck yeah, I got that one right, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, Freemasonry, and the Greek Mysteries. In 1909, Waite felt empowered to publish his own tarot deck without compromising the order's secret.
Yeah, so I knew this was from the Golden Dawn as well.
So,
but I didn't realise, interesting.
Yeah.
Very different decks.
Yes, that kind of goes on the Arthur Waite style. And then here's some interesting one that I found, this is another hypothesis from another person. And they say the Gypsies, as evidenced by the similarity to the Gypsy language with Sanskrit, the idiom of the ancient Indians around 14th century AD, a strong migratory wave began to climb the valley of the Indo and pass through the Middle East, splitting into two sections. And the first Gypsies were actually from India, the oldest Gypsies.
I think Gypsies are always sort of associated with the tarot, aren't they? Fortune telling.
Yeah, the fortune telling, they're very esoteric. But there's this great documentary on YouTube about these Indian gypsies, cobra gypsies, they're called. They have cobras. Pretty cool.
Okay.
Very colorful. Nice way of life. Anywho, so they migrated up and began to go through the Middle East, splitting into two sections. And the first headed for Bakhani, the other reached Egypt, hence the English term gypsy, Egyptian. So they probably came into contact with esoteric themes there and cultivated a long symbolic layout of a deck. And then, since they were moving through the Middle East too, they maybe could have influenced Turkey, in that beginning, even though Turkey is not quite in the Middle East, but they're going up that way. Moreover, it is known that among the typical professions of the gypsies, coppersmiths, dancers, horse breeders also include the bellows, so much so that the reading of the cards and the hand in the centuries of the Inquisition, first and then of rationalism, remained for a long time exclusively their prerogative. Okay, that was a weird way to say that,
Yeah.
but basically it just means that as the centuries went on, they kind of got associated with that. And it's possible that the esoteric symbolism of the tarot cards would therefore be derived from Egypt through a form of traveler, Roma, gypsy fortune telling.
And if you think like the decades, like we have like the traveling circuses, the traveling fun fairs, and especially in the old days, maybe not so much now, but you would always have like the tarot reader, the fortune teller booth there, you know?
The oracle archetype, the oracle used to be a very prominent role in society. The oracle was very highly esteemed back in Greek culture. Everyone would go to the oracle. It wasn't just people trying out a new age fad or, people in trouble who really with love problems or something that needed some sort of fix. It was...
They might have had love problems back then too.
Well, it was those people too. But it wasn't just them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was also kings. People...
You wanted advice for war.
Yeah, war generals.
Yeah.
Like all these people would go to the oracles of Delphi. And so divination used to be a huge part of society. So it's no shock that kind of bled out into modern day, but nowadays we have a lot of people who are the con artists who use these tools to kind of just gain a profit and gain some sort of notoriety.
Yeah.
There it is. But the Order of the Golden Dawn was heavily influenced by ancient Egyptian esoteric practices. So the fact that a lot of what we see now today comes from the Order of Golden Dawn. The Egyptians didn't have their cards except for dual monsters, but so yeah. And the last thing we'll talk about before we get into our fun segment, is that the Templars, the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, the Templars. Men of light, men of righteousness, men of power.
You shall honor me.
Honor thou the Templars who doth look out for justice in this world. These located in defense of the holy places and defense of the pilgrims had the opportunity to learn about the ancient knowledge of the Jewish people, accurate decoders of letters and numbers of the Bible. So the ancient Bible was filled with numerology, filled with codes, secrets, and the Hebrew language, like Sanskrit, like many other ancient languages, was said to be downloaded from the divine language of God to speak. One fun fact, there's studies done on people who spoke Sanskrit, and there was a direct correlation to a 30% increase in memory and being able to recall things in vivid detail. So it was actually a study done that proved that knowledge and knowing Sanskrit improved your memory. That was all they could really test, but pretty interesting.
And like the Kabbalah, that is a really old Hebrew system, is like very much had a lot of influence on, I think, tarot, a lot of the modern decks, including the Rider-Waite and the Crowley. That system in general.
Yeah. The Templars were esoteric also testifies to the complex symbolism of Gothic cathedrals, which they were the creators of. And you can kind of see that in the very early tarot cards. There's all this stained glass, these kind of Gothic imagery. Not like goth girl. Not like goth, but like Gothic historical. While they were actively involved in alchemy, prove that by their own rule, which in one step expressly forbids making gold in the presence of strangers. Oh, you looking at the stink bug?
It's the stink bug. I feel like it's just going to collapse down onto us in a second. There he goes.
It'll be in divination. Read his movements. What is he saying? Freedom! I am free.
This is the last moments of madness before he dies for the winter.
Oh, that was dark.
And we have so many stink bugs, and that's what they do. There he goes.
Hey, cutester. Oh, he's on his back. Let me just
Help
save him.
out.
Stink bugs, very cute, very stupid.
Yeah.
In my
I really
opinion,
love
they're
them.
very cute, but the amount of times I find them flailing on their back,
Yes, and you have to rescue them.
and I'm like, little guy, did you not evolve to be able to turn yourself over? Are you like a turtle insect? But yeah, they're very cute
There
and
he
very
goes.
friendly.
Yeah, they are cute.
And we have some stink bugs here with really cool designs on their shells.
Yeah.
I'll put a picture up.
Yeah.
You have to send me that picture.
Okay. They're also like a symbol when you find them in the house, like a symbol of protection, which is really cool. So they bring that energy of protection energetically to the household.
So, final thing, the tarot symbolism imbued with esotericism would thus have come to Europe from Israel through the Templars, which not only acted as an intermediary, but also provided codifying of this knowledge, and by passing on the cryptic language entrusted to the Gothic architecture and sculpture. Voila! So that is the history.
Yeah, very interesting. Kind of what I thought already was nothing is really known for sure.
Yeah.
The only thing that they can sort of confirm for sure is that it didn't start out as divination. It started out as
Actually,
a game.
that's not completely for sure.
They knew that, but we don't know for sure. They knew for sure that it was a game.
There was a game a long time ago, but who knows before that?
Yeah, that's true.
Because there's mentions of it earlier.
But there's no
evidence
of the decks.
And then we can only begin to trace and piece together the evidence from a certain period.
Yeah.
And the fall of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So, and throughout time, history is always rewriting itself.
Yeah,
because
and it
we
could
find more evidence. So who knows? It's all up in the air, but this is what we have so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love learning more about the tarot and of the dual monsters.
Duel Monsters. Yu-Gi-Oh! God, it's such a hype show.
Okay, so we know that Trey he's not a complete novice. He has some understanding of the tarot cards, and so some of the cards that come up he might already have know some of the meanings for them, but just try, even me as well, I thought why don't we just try and look at them with eyes who are just observing art and see what story we see within the art.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not I haven't visited tarot cards in years.
And also
and I never did
you can go into your feelings, because when you look at art, you talk about how does this art make me feel. Yeah.
I never did a proper in-depth study. I watched a couple of videos, and I talked with people about it, and I would use them every now and then, and but yeah, I never got into a place where I was very well versed with them, and I definitely haven't used them in years. So
okay, so I picked out some cards for my giant Rider-Waite deck, because this is both our favorite deck anyway, and so I'm just gonna pick a card and then we just talk about it quickly and see what comes up. So the first card is the Fool, and we'll put these cards up on the screen.
Okay, yeah, so the Fool, okay, I'm just gonna read based on the story that I see. There's a man with his head in the clouds. He's kind of skipping along. He's got his whole life on his shoulder. He looks like a traveler, a nomad of some sort, but he looks like he's edging to the edge of a cliff. He's not aware.
And he's called the Fool.
Yeah, the Fool. he's not really aware of where he's stepping. It's almost as if his head's looking to the skies, and he's in a very, it seems like a playful, childlike state. He's very, not really focused on consequences or the where his actions will lead him. But it's a very freeing state as well. So it's almost like he's not really bound by the rules or expectations of the world around him. But there's also this white dog who, I'm not sure what the symbolism of that is. It's warning him, it's warning him, say, hey, look, you're about to step off the cliff. But I think in his left hand, feminine left hand, he's holding a white rose. When we think of the rose and white, I think of purity, God, light, and I think faith. So I think it resembles faith, and that even if he does, that eventually, that faith will guide him, and he believes in it. He has an avid faith in fate as well, and that is what will protect him. And perhaps since the rose is white and the dog is white, there's some sort of divine link there that it won't lead him, and maybe he will fall into dangers and peril, but he takes it as it goes.
He likely will, walking off the cliff.
Yeah.
But how does it make you feel? Another thing about this card, especially for people who are listening and can't see the card, is yellow, right? It's such a bright yellow, and I feel like yellow is a color of, it's the color of the sun. It's that color of warmth. It's that color for me of joy, of optimism, so that's also interesting. I feel like just looking at the card, the color alone makes you feel like, it gives you this light.
It's a joyous feeling. It's a joyous, free feeling.
Yeah.
And the number 0 on there, it almost makes me, it's like
infinite.
Yeah, infinite. There's a wiseness to the Fool that isn't expressed in like your typical manner. They'll often probably be like not someone you might consider wise, but they might have a wit to them, and that wit they seem. It's more like
it's quite a naive energy, like.
But that's the wisdom. That's the wisdom.
It's that unimpacted by the world, like unaffected by the world. It's kind of like when that sheltered kid who grew up homeschooled in the countryside comes out to the world. Like that's that same energy. It's like they're just ready to like learn. They have no influence on
but
society.
Nothing's shackling them down either.
Yeah.
It's like it's a childlike wisdom. That's how I see it. It's like they're not in their head. They're not bound by their hurts or the things that have gone wrong.
They haven't had any experience to have that. It's zero. There's no experience beyond that.
So it's like the freshling
previous of that. Yeah. So it's like that. It's that freshing about to go on all the adventures, I guess. If you believe in the Fool's Journey, some people read with the Fool's Journey, where it's like the Fool goes through every card and learns something from every card, and by the end of it, he becomes the world card. So
cool.
It's like that blank slate, but I don't know, like if that's something that super resonates with me. But
I like that.
Just looking at the art.
I can relate to that.
I feel like the feeling, is joyous, is that naive kind of heading out into the world, about to learn to love, to be hurt, to be challenged, to have spiritual growth, like about to go have all those experiences but not having yet had it.
Although, have you ever met a Fool character in real life who kind of resembles that archetype? Because I've met people who are like, it's almost like they're older, they're not young, and they've seen some things, you can tell, but they have this like Fool energy about them, and it's almost like there's a mischief to them, or like this, like the jester kind of archetype where, and they teach in like riddles or wit, some like jokes, and
that's not how I would read personally. That's just not how I would read the Fool, or the Fool in general. That's a jester.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a very different energy. This is a very naive, sweet, eyes wide open. Yeah. Untainted, innocent energy.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and a bit foolish. I feel like the name really does say it all. In this picture, he's about to step off a cliff. Like, he hasn't learnt many life lessons yet. He's, and we go through life to learn all those lessons, right? But he just hasn't. And I have met people like that who haven't had a lot of life experience and haven't, had a lot of trips and falls and learnt from those things. They haven't set out on their fool's journey yet, in a sense.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the next card, which is the Tower card. And always remember, like, however we look at the cards, you're never wrong, you're never right. Like, it's whatever feels good for you. It's not. Obviously, there are like classical meanings of cards and stuff, but I really believe that you can read cards in exactly this way, just looking at the images.
Well, this one definitely has a bit more negative connotations. That lady looks quite sad.
Yeah, it's black.
It's obviously like shit hits the fan. Everything's starting to crumble. All the foundations that we built.
And the tower's like on fire. It's been struck by lightning.
It's almost like fate's hand has like smacked it off. The crown has been, the king's been dethroned. It kind of shows like the toppling of an empire, but on a personal level, it could be the disillusion of everything that everything you kind of hold on to. Just looking at the card and the story, it doesn't show much promise to me. But I know a lot of people take it to be like, oh, so this is the destroying of the past to make room for new opportunities.
I feel like how you read it, like, for me, is exactly how I would read it. Yeah, and I feel like the imagery says it all, and I don't feel like the Tower is a particularly positive card, at all. It's like there's no negative and positive. It's that every card has both sides of that, right? But it is, you can, exactly what you said, that sometimes things need to be torn down and you need to start again. You need to lose everything and start again.
Kind of reminds me of the Tower of Babylon, and they were trying to touch the heavens, and they kept reaching higher and higher and higher until the whole civilization fell. And, the Tower of Babylon crumbled and Babylon came down. Which also reminds me of the Icarus tale from ancient Egypt, with Icarus and his father, who were in a tower, and they constructed these wings to be able to escape the tower. And Icarus's father warned him not to fly too close to the sun because it would melt the wings, the glue on his wings. But the child, Icarus got so caught up in the flight that he wanted to continue soaring higher and higher, but he got too close to the sun and then plummeted to his death. And the father was forced to, watch his own son's death, which kind of reminds me of that. It's almost like this, kind of also is like this accumulation of wealth that perhaps your ego has gotten too lofty. Your ego has gotten too high, which is kind of resembled by the crown, the king, it's gone too high, so you have to be knocked down. And so you're thrown down, and you have to go all the way down to the depths of your shadows and confront that. And
it was maybe a shallow build, because, if it did have strong, sturdy structure and foundations, then it's not going to get knocked down so easily, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So this next card we're looking at is the Two of Pentacles.
Okay, I don't know really anything about this card. Firstly, this guy looks really uncertain.
Right.
He looks like, hey, I don't really know what's going on over here. I'm not sure which one to choose. I got two things in my hands. He doesn't really look confident at all. He's kind of got this long dunce hat on. If anyone knows
It's like a big condom.
If anyone knows what a dunce hat is, it's in the Victorian era when you were like naughty as a child.
Yeah, yeah.
Or even in public, maybe you had
in schools they had.
Yeah, you had to wear this hat, which basically marked you as an idiot.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I had to wear that at school once. We had this like Victorian era like
oh my God.
day at school where we had to come in Victorian dress and it was all Victorian themed and the teachers were in character and
we
everything.
had Victorian Day too.
And yeah, my friend and I, we were not supposed to go to this like fair, this school fair, and we were all supposed to go together as a class. My friend and I went at break and completely lost track of time because we were so young. And when we came back, we were like an hour late and the teachers had been freaking out, like where the hell did they go?
Oh God.
And him and I had to wear these dunce hats. After we got our scolding, they made us wear these dunce hats, and around us we had to wear these signs like we're idiots or something.
Oh my God.
And we had to
it's
walk.
horrible.
We had to walk up and down the hallways.
That makes me so sad.
Yeah. But anyway, this guy, yeah, he looks kind of uncertain. The waves in the background might mirror that. It's like, it's not settled. There's like some tumultuousness going on.
Yeah, it's like high tides. And what does water represent to you?
Emotions.
Yeah.
So the waters are uncertain, they're unsteady.
But it's like he's not.
But there's a clear sky.
Yeah.
It's like he's weighing two options. You know, his hands are placed kind of like a weighing scale, you know, like the Libra scales. And I mean, within them is an infinity loop. Not sure what that infinity loop would represent. But it seems just like the weighing of two choices.
Or kind of like committing to both, I would say, you know?
Yeah, that they're joined together.
Yeah.
That perhaps, yeah, but it's like a state of indecision within yourself, like that maybe trying to choose between the two is what's creating this dissonance, you know, like the trying to say, okay, I'm only light or I'm only dark, you know, but can you hold both of them at the same time? And, you know, trying to only be one will create some sort of conflict or waves or disruption, dissonance within you. But I'm kind of maybe portraying it a bit more negative just because when I look at it, it's all very blank. It's all very blue. There's no lightning. There's no dark clouds, you know, so it doesn't seem like he's...
You've just got the sea that's a bit wild. It's throwing those waves around.
His foot's kind of up. Looks like he's dancing, maybe.
Yeah, like he's that's something to note. So what is he doing? He's dancing. He's juggling.
Juggling two
things.
Yeah, juggling two things. How
like how I see this card. Like one thing is very similar to how Trey's seen it, but it's like he's with the water in the background, but the calm like. Sky, right?
And the sky is like air.
Yeah, but he's not looking at the water, and he's dancing around. Like, what is like that saying? Like you're dancing around the issue.
Yeah.
You know, you're dancing around the problem.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to face the problem, and he's not looking at his emotions. He's not looking at how he's struggling emotionally with these two objects. So like almost trying to do two things and it's not working out. You're trying to do too much, maybe, kind of energy. Like that's what I see in this picture, and it's ignoring that, like the kind of that energy of, you know, when people just keep pushing through, like that mum that takes on too much, You know,
Yeah.
like in Wife Swap last night.
There's a lot of air in his hat. I
Yeah,
feel like
that's
that
true.
could be a saying, you know.
Yeah.
That guy's got a lot of air in his hat. You know, he needs
Yeah.
he needs to get real.
I love it. I love it. The next one is the Five of Swords. There's a lot more going on in this, I feel.
Alright, this guy's like, look at you chumps. You guys are giving up already. You don't even know the truth. I'm fiery and got a nice blonde fiery hair. I'm good looking. I got a good build, a strong jaw. Yeah, I can take this on. I'm not gonna give up, even when the going gets tough. Look at you, little loser Ponzi over there in the background, putting your face in your hands. You know, you haven't even tried. You haven't even you looked at the situation and you're like, I can't do it. I have such a negative mindset. It's too much for me to carry. Man, just pick up 3 and come back for the other 2. It's not that big of a deal. And yeah, God. So you know.
I love that. I love that, especially when you said pick up 3 and come back for the other 2, because that is like, I don't know if you know that, but that's like a very well known way this card is described, you know, that that they kind of give up because they couldn't hold all 5 swords, whereas this guy's like, well, I'll just pick up 3 and come back for the other 2. So
Yeah.
So how does this card make you feel? What do you feel like?
I feel like you could be either person in this card, or you could be all 3 at once, and
or you could be him.
Or you could be him, and since he's in the forefront, you would assume that would be the main archetype of this card, and it's kind of like the leader, but it shows a mindset. There's 3 different mindsets here. Or this guy seems more aloof. He's like, I don't even really want to do it. This guy seems really upset. He's like, God, I just can't carry them. I just can't carry it. It's too much. You know, and that we can often get into that mindset. It's just too much for me to handle because we try to do it all at once, you know? And this guy's like, hey, let me strike some clear clarity through those choppy clouds of yours.
Yeah, so like that's another thing. It's like there's choppy, like harsh looking, heavy grey clouds above them, and there's a body of water that's very still behind them.
Yeah.
And that kind of clouds I really associate with air and the mind and thoughts and stuff, and the water we associate with water, so it makes me feel like this is a very like mental kind of energy, and obviously it's a swords card, so you know it is mental, but even in that Pentacles card, it's an earth element card, but it's an emotion. There's suppressed emotions that are causing an issue, whereas this is more like having certain belief systems. So like I used to take it from the ego perspective here and like see the guy in the forefront, but now whenever I do readings, I really see it from the people behind. And when I look at this card, I see comparison and like comparing ourselves with others, like, oh, like I'll just give up because look, he's already doing it and he's doing it better.
Yeah.
And that's like a belief system that's affecting us, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I can see that, like those in the mom and wife swap.
Yeah. So we have
those daughters did not want to do their laundry.
No, or put their cups in the sink.
Or deal with their own children.
Okay, so the Ace of Wands, the next
card. It seems like the hand of God's reaching out from the sky and giving you the tool you need to succeed. It's like, you know, here you go. Here it is. divine gift, you know, take the steps, seize the wand, do what you need to do. You got it. It's a very perpendicular, erect wand.
I thought that'd be the first thing you'd say, because a lot of people, when they see this, the first thing they think of is an erection.
Yeah, it's not hard. I mean, just a vertical stick.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the top.
Yeah, it
Bit
is
of a head
nubby.
vibe.
It's got a nubule. Yeah, so it's like, and then kind of like a thumbs up, you know, go ahead. And yeah, that's all I see.
Yeah, and another thing I always notice about this card is how it has the buds, like buds growing on the wand. So, you know, the wand has like this potential of growth to like grow into a tree. So it's alive and it's got this potential. Okay, the next card is the Magician.
Magician. Okay, lots of symbols here. Got the infinity over his head. Man's connected. He's got his hand raised with the wand, which means he's mastered his mind. Or, not his mind, he's mastered his, what's wand element? Air?
Fire.
Fire. He's mastered his...
He used his wand.
Fire. Oh, his wand's on the table, so that's just a divine rod. He just got, okay, he's mastered all 4 elements.
Yeah.
The master,
awesome.
But he also shows a polarity. It's light and dark. He's pointing up and down.
Yeah, I love that.
And yeah, he's got all the elements on the table, the sword, the cups, the pentacles, and the wand. He's got all of it, and there's a roses growing, lilies.
Surrounded by growth.
Surrounded by growth, yeah. Trailing down, trickling
Flowers.
Trickling him. He's got some nice robes.
Is that an Ouroboros, I think, on his belt?
Oh, it is a snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, so how does it make you feel? It's a bright yellow card. Red rose.
It just feels empowering. It feels good. It feels like this person has mastered. There's a lot of self-mastery here because they've got all their elements sorted and they're well balanced. And yeah, like you said, a lot of growth and abundance with them. They've mastered the infinity. It's in a head, in a loop above their head. The snake around their belt can represent that too. You know, the snake eating its own tail. It's the same thing, really.
And like, because Trey, he understands a lot of esoteric symbolism and stuff, so I feel like a card like this can speak a lot to you. But I just think with the colours alone and the growth, it does give this kind of like this positivity, this like, yeah, I could go for this, you know? Okay, so the next card is the 7 of Cups.
Cups, cha-cha-cha. He's got many options in front of him. It might be hard to choose, and it appears in this smoke and mirrors. Which one will you choose? Will it fade? How quickly will it fade? Make the right decision. There's a big mushroom. That's the one I'd go for.
Where is that mushroom?
Oh, is that not a mushroom?
No, that's a ghost.
That's a mushroom.
That's a man with a sheet on.
That's a mushroom with hands. There's no right or wrong. I can read it
That's
the way.
true, yeah, that's true.
To me, that is a mushroom. So I would go for the mushroom. Well, there's obviously some desires here. And yeah, it's like you have a lot of options in front of you. Which one will you pick? There's temptation. A lot of temptation, demonic serpentine images. There's a candle wax tower castle thing. There's a lot of money. There's women. Most of it doesn't seem, and then the wreath represents probably some sort of like kingliness or royalness. None of these images, except for the mushroom man, look particular. See, if he had any sort of body, I would think it wasn't a mushroom. And it's red and white.
He's got hands.
Red and white.
He's got a sheet over his head.
Red and white.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a very positive card. He's silhouetted. He's kind of in shadow.
Yeah.
Even though there's a clear sky behind it, there's a lot of smoke. So it's like unclearness, but there's a lot of options ahead of them, but none of them they all seem like desire.
Yeah.
In a way.
And it's almost like, if you think it's like smoke, it's kind of like a thought bubble. And it's almost like all of these ideas and potentials in these held in these cups are like in his mind, in his thoughts. And he's so focused on them that he's become like silhouetted a shadow in his own life, that he actually isn't even living in the present anymore. His present is completely dark because he's so focused within, oh, I could be doing this and I could be doing that, you know?
Yeah, the cloud of thoughts and pulling him every which way and material things, except for the mushroom man.
10 of Swords.
Ouch. Hey, could you help get these swords out of my back?
There's a man lying on the floor with 10 swords in his back.
But he's got his hand in this position.
Yeah, the peace symbol, and isn't that like in
downwards.
Indian? Isn't that in you know, you studied Indian symbols and stuff. That's one of theirs.
This is used a lot by Jesus.
No, I think it's like, I don't know.
Because look, only 2 fingers are up and his thumb.
Yeah,
so it's
true.
this, which is...
No, his thumb's in, tucked in.
Well, not really. It's right up by his digit. It's like this. It's not like this, like, or else it would be across his palm.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and you see this in so many statues, like, isn't it? So like Buddha statues or not.
Yeah.
What's his name? You know.
Baphomet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jesus, he also, but he
Jesus,
holds it up.
Yeah.
This guy is holding it down.
Well, it's kind of like, I go in peace.
Yeah. Or I took the wrong road.
Yeah.
I followed the road down to the darkness.
He's got like black sky above him as well.
Yeah, but there's light in the distance.
Yeah. I
There's only,
love that you noticed that, because that's something I love about the Ten of Swords.
There's only darkness above him right now.
But that's going to clear, right? And then the sun is rising in the distance.
And the maggots are going to feast on his body. Or the old. Or
so,
what's
like,
left
this
behind.
card for me, it makes me feel like, just this imagery, like, makes me feel like, oh, okay. It doesn't make me feel as, like, daunted as the Tower. For me, this is like, okay, the worst has happened, right?
Yeah.
And now the sun is going to rise on a new day.
Yeah, and it's...
and the water is still. So you're not dealing with the crazy emotions and anything. Like, it's all kind of done. Like, the worst has happened and the emotions have finally calmed. It's kind of that place.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a nicer place.
Yeah, I hear like... Dong, dong, like the church bells, and then with like a cloudy sky, but then eventually the light comes back, and the light peeks through the cracks in the clouds, and you realize like you can take the next step forward, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
That you've been given hardship, but you can move forward from it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite cards, actually.
It's like it's the moment of crippling where you feel like you can't do anything, that all you want to do is die, you know?
It's when you just surrender as well. That's what, like, that hand symbol he has as well. So that's when you just surrender to it. And you're like, okay, I can't control this anymore. It's going to be, and then I need to move on. Okay.
The Empress. She seems very confident, very sure of herself.
And I think of you as the Empress a lot. You got Empress energy, babe. Like, when I first met you, I thought you had full energy. But as I got to know you, I feel like, no, you have that powerful Empress energy. It's a very...
Man, sister.
Yeah. It's it's a very powerful creative energy, you know.
Yeah, we have the golden grains rising by her feet, which is, you know, the golden grains of wheat, of sustenance, of basic needs. You know, she can meet those. There's
And then what's your
the female symbol
female symbol?
in a heart, love.
There's the
It's
symbol
everywhere.
of Venus.
Was that Venus?
Yeah.
I thought that was the female symbol.
Yeah, it is similar, but the female one is up in a direction, remember?
Oh, okay. What's the male symbol then? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got a pomegranate dress. Pomegranate. Feminine.
Yeah, pomegranate just always reminds me of Persephone.
Yeah. She's got a nice luscious waterfall, but it's like her emotions are pouring and readily available, and it feeds the earth around her. So it feeds her material kingdom, and you know, she's seated on a soft cushion, but it's a humble throne.
Yeah.
And lots of trees around her.
And her clothing is very loose, and in a lot of like images she's pregnant, and then obviously pregnant symbolizes creation and creativity.
Yeah. She's got some sort of wand thing by her head.
Kind of looks like a maraca, like.
Yeah, like a scepter, but like a...
She could be playing a tune with that thing.
Or like an ankh, you know, equivalent.
Like one thing I always notice about this card, especially when it's like in the big image, it can be harder to see in the smaller cards. But how the river is flowing from behind her and right down into her, like it's flowing right down into her feet, and it's almost like she's like directly receiving from source, because I also feel like you know, the water can represent emotions, but also intuition and like connection to source. And often like when we are more connected with our intuition and source and stuff, our creativity thrives. So she has like this continuous access to that, which is nice.
Yeah. And the crowns of stars on her head and the golden light behind her means she's connected to the heavens and cosmic knowledge.
And it's a very yellow card, so it's like got that very nice feeling. It makes you feel like positive and optimistic.
Yeah.
Oh. The Four of Swords.
Interesting. So we have what seems to be a man, a knight, or probably a knight. That's in his tomb. His hands are in a peaceful gesture, depicted in a peaceful gesture. He's got a sword on his tombstone and 3 swords facing down above him. But the thing that catches my eye most is the top left stained glass window.
Yeah, it's the only place there's any real colour.
Yeah, with a person giving something towards someone who's praying. It's like...
It reminds me of Bernadette and Mother Mary.
Yeah.
Those images.
Yeah, and there's a castle in the background. It seems like charitable in some way, but also connection to faith. And it's a hard one for me to read, this one, actually.
Yeah, what does it like give you? Like, if you just look at what is he doing?
Yeah, he's giving that pray symbol, which is a peaceful gesture. It seems like peaceful to me.
It makes you feel peaceful.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a card of, it basically symbolizes meditation and taking time out to rest the thoughts. If you think the swords are the thoughts, and it's like meditation is to try and get rest from restless thoughts, right? And often I guess it's a church, which I guess symbolizes a place where we can get that kind of rest, right? I really like this card, actually. I feel like it's very simple, but just like Trey said, just looking at it, it's uncomplicated. it makes you feel calm.
Yeah.
The next card is the Queen of Wands.
So she's got a very big throne. She's
Yeah.
got the lions. So there's a lot of courage, confidence, yellow, sunflower, rising to the occasion, sunlight, 2 lions battling. She's ferocious, but she's also tamed the lions because she has the black cat, which in front of her, and the black cat. Yeah. So it's like the lions that are fighting, she can, you know, harness that energy, but she's tamed it as well. And she's got the one staff, so it means she's mastered that fire. And she's also giving and inspires growth.
She represents, like, it's a queen, obviously.
Yeah, queen of...
What does that make you feel? Like, what does that represent to you?
She represents royalty, courage, and taming. It's like, she's quite magical because she does have that black cat symbolism. And she's got those golden robes. But she's also like holding a sunflower, which is very closely related to the sun, and you know, it follows the sun, so a lot of light, but it's also an image of happiness and an image of
optimism.
Yeah, tall growth, reaching for the sun.
Yeah, I feel like the yellow, she gives me like this optimistic vibe. One thing, like with the black cat, and you know, if you think the black cat is, especially when the tarot deck was probably around originally, they were seen as like, oh, don't cross the path of the black cat, you know, seen as kind of bad and taboo. And it's almost like, yeah, I'm sat here with a black cat and I don't care.
Yeah.
I kind of like, I feel like she's got this kind of like, I don't care what other people
it's like
think
shadows
of me.
are on her side too.
Yeah. Which is a whole different type of confidence, which is like, you know, whenever I'm like trying to embrace confidence and stuff, I always use the Queen of Wands card to help with that. So, okay, I want to wrap this up because, yeah, it's getting long. I had a few more cards, but I thought maybe just pick a card trade maybe from one of these decks just so that we have a different card. And I'll pick one from here for us. So Trey's picking from this Sasaburito deck, and I'm picking from the Lightseers deck.
God,
we also have
intense.
Yeah, it's quite an intense deck.
Eight of Swords. Take me.
We'll do that though, because it's a bit... Okay. Yeah, so did we look at... We haven't looked at the Eight of Swords. What's that? What vibe is that giving you?
I've been struck. But I surrendered to it. I surrendered to the pain. Surrendered to the darkness. All the challenges, they've overwhelmed me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting take on the Eight of Swords.
I don't really know what the original...
Yeah, like traditionally the Eight of Swords is like sort of being trapped in your own head. You know, victim mentality. I feel like you was kind of given that, but then I guess it's that not having the awareness that you can actually get yourself out of your bad troubles in your situation. So I feel like you kind of was picking up on that vibe, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's as clear as the Rider-Waite, if I'm honest.
No.
And then the Five of Wands.
Just burning. They're just crossed and burning. All jumbled.
Yeah, Five of Wands is a card of conflicts, disagreements with opposing parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of got that vibe, but again, I don't feel like that would have come across as clear as it does on the Rider-Waite. It's
No.
spelled out a lot more on the Rider-Waite.
Yeah, there's definitely not much story here.
But they're kind of cool. It's cool art, like, and I feel like it can get you to connect with the cards maybe in a slightly different way. Especially if you're more like, you know, attuned and know a lot about the tarot. The 8 of Pentacles from the Lightseers.
She's got a lot of abundance and food and material. I think she's got a lot of stuff over there.
She looks busy, huh?
She looks like, but she doesn't look happy about it. It's like, I have to hold this damn candle. Wow, all my stuff is over there. I'm not even eating it. I don't know. Yeah, she's got knowledge, books, wisdom, and food, but it's almost like she's turning away from it. But then or she's confident about it. She's either so confident about it that she's coming off sad. I don't know how that makes sense, but there's a big blast of light around that stuff, and then all the cycles of the moon. I don't know.
This is the original Rider-Waite version of it.
Oh yeah, that he's happy and building his material.
Yeah, so you're getting a very different picture.
Yeah, I just don't know why she looks like such a grumpy person in this picture. She looks really grumpy and like.
Yeah.
He looks happy and content. You know?
It's kind of this like energy of the apprentice, you know, like working towards something, working hard at something.
Yeah.
And I guess in a sense she could be, you know, a witchy apprentice, like learning her craft with all her like herbs and books and stuff. But I agree with you. It's not as easy to get that interpretation from that card.
I mean, it's obvious here in this part. The second she comes in, and then there's all this shadow around the back of the card, then it just makes it seem like maybe it's like a different metaphor, like lighting up the shadows within her. But
and then that's awesome, because that's the thing with like what is so great about tarot, and we have all these different art pieces basically, of all these different decks and different takes on the cards, where it can really sort of stretch your interpretation of the card and give you a whole different message. Because if you was reading for someone with these cards, you're getting these images, and then you can be doing another reading with these cards and you're going to get you could have pulled the same cards, but you're going to get a whole different message, because you're using your intuition to connect with the art. And that is something that is really cool. And the reason why I wanted to finish off with looking at different decks, just to show you, you know, how different our interpretations can be depending on the art. And last week's on the animal deck, and I've got to pull an animal deck card because we're so used to looking at people and stuff. And what you see, it's a hummingbird, the 6 of branches. And I think what's so fun about this animal deck particularly is that I think with different animals that you can no.
Oh yeah.
You can get...
You know what this is.
Sea lion.
You know the truth.
Okay. Trey's winding me up because I read a seal shifter.
Fanfic.
Not fanfic, it was a romance.
Fanfic,
and it was
romance.
I didn't enjoy it, I hated it. I didn't like that he was a seal shifter.
Seal sex.
But, change of topic, now that he's called me out on that. I think this card, the hummingbird, it's like if you're really into animals as well, like I am, I feel like you can really get an energy of that animal, right? So like, what does a hummingbird make you feel, babe?
Fluttery and free and joyous and also unexpected, because they are really big fighters. Did you know that?
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah.
But then that's how your reading of this card would be different from mine. Because
But
you
yeah,
might pick
and this
up
one
on
is
that.
very like a joyous experience. It's just wings open, chest puffed.
Yeah.
Beak to the sky, open frilly flowers.
Feels like almost like fireworks in the background, like celebrating. Like, and the hummingbird, it's like they're humming their beautiful song, you know. And I feel that's another great thing about animal decks is we can sort of tune into what do we know about that animal, what kind of energy do we feel about that animal, what do we feel like they symbolize, and we can bring that into the reading. Okay, so that's going to be everything for today. I really need the toilet. Yeah, that's why I've been dancing around for the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's getting critical. We gotta go.
Crits. All right.
Thanks for listening, guys. Yeah, this has been so fun, and I'm sorry it won't probably be the last tarot video that we do, podcast that we do.
Okay.
Because I feel like in the future sometime we'll want to dive in again with the tarot. It's such an interesting topic. I hope you enjoyed it and let us know in the comments. Go over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. That really helps us. Subscribe to our YouTube because we're now on YouTube. If you're listening, go check us out on YouTube. We have a visual now. And yeah, I think that's everything.
YouTube, if you didn't catch that. All right.
Lots of love and blessings.
See you next week.